All
Well,
right,
hi
it's all
everyone.
yours.
My name is Andrew. What, Matt?
It's
Okay.
all yours.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Andrew DeRock, and I'm an assistant professor at Murray State University. Today, I'm going to present a part of my graduate research. I realize that I don't have my video going, but you guys don't have to see me. Today, I'm going to be presenting a part of my graduate student Clay Bliznick's research on assessing factors driving avian diversity in bottomland hardwood forest restoration sites. He's been fortunate enough to obtain a position with Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, so that caused him to have to be in the field today. So that's why you get me instead of him. As most of you know, the Mississippi Alluvial Valley hosts greater than 400 species of birds throughout the year, and at least 50 of these species are in decline because of the loss of bottomland hardwood wetlands that were once common throughout this region. To mitigate these effects of wetland losses on biodiversity and ecosystem services, the Agricultural Conservation and Easement Program has worked to regenerate bottomland hardwood forests in this region by cooperating with private landowners to establish wetland reserve easements. However, few studies have assessed the influence of these easements on biodiversity, and obtaining information can help managers prioritize sites for easements and better understand how different management practices might influence diversity. So the objectives of our research were to assess the response of avian diversity to wetland restoration on easement sites and use modeling to investigate environmental factors driving avian diversity across sites. To meet those objectives, we conducted 10-minute bird point counts at 13 total sites, which included 2 reference sites, 2 control sites, and 9 WRE sites. We sampled each site 4 times within each season from 2019 to 2021. For what we're showing you today, we calculated songbird species richness, exponential Shannon diversity, and the inverse Simpson index, pulling the data across years and seasons. In the future, we're going to consider seasonal differences, functional diversity, and other metrics. This is kind of a preliminary results that we're sharing today. We compared differences in each diversity metric across the 3 site types using generalized linear models with Poisson or negative binomial distributions. And then we also wanted to look at environmental variables that were driving diversity patterns in birds that we were seeing. So we made a suite of models to assess the influence of factors at multiple scales on songbird diversity, including looking at land cover classes within 250 meters, 500 meters, and 1,000 meters of the point count location using high resolution nape imagery. And at the fine scale, we included various hydrology metrics collected from 2019 to 2021 using hobo water level data loggers and vegetation data that were collected at 4 randomly placed 10 by 10 meter plots within each easement. We made a priori model sets that included combinations of uncorrelated variables. So, sorry if I put that on there. That included uncorrelated variables at each scale, and then we compared the models using AKIT's information criteria. So here are some of our kind of start to our results that we wanted to share today, and obviously I can't put everything on the screen. But just to start here, first we found that species richness on reference sites was approximately 1.6 times greater than on WRE sites, and there really was no difference between the control and the reference sites statistically. The effective number of common species, which is that exponential Shannon diversity index, was 3 and 2 times greater on reference sites compared to the control and WRE sites respectively. One thing that I just wanted to mention here is that you can see kind of the shifting, at least in regards to thinking about these common species towards being more similar to the reference sites. And the inverse Simpson index was similar in regards to its patterns. We didn't find any fine scale measures that were included in our models that influenced any of our bird diversity measures, but we did find that these relationships at broader scales, particularly 250 and 500 meters, there were a lot of variables that seemed to be driving the diversity patterns we were seeing. I don't have time to go through all of these, but I just would want to highlight that one can see that the presence of wooded wetlands, which are essentially bottomland hardwoods in our case, within 250 and 500 meters, and deciduous forests within 250 meters positively influence most diversity measures. Agriculture negatively influences the inverse Simpson index at 500 and 1,000 meters, and that essentially provides a measure of the effective number of dominant species present in a particular area. And you can see these relationships, at least 2 of them pulled out in these figures above, and you can kind of see a pretty strong correlation between these 2 here. So I just wanted to kind of pull out 5 key points from this. First of all, restoration to reference conditions from a bird's eye view anyways will take time. We can definitely see, at least looking at the Shannon exponential Shannon index, and then also that inverse Simpson index, that there is starting to be this movement of the WRCE sites looking more like the reference sites. The surrounding landscape, in our case, really seems to be driving diversity patterns in songbirds, but we still need to consider seasons, functional groups, so on and so forth. And I have a feeling, kind of hypothesized, that probably those fine scale features might have certain seasons, for instance, that they have more of an effect on the particular suite of birds that we would see in these different areas. The presence of bottomland hardwood wetlands and deciduous forests positively linked to diversity, especially within 250 and 500 meters. And just to give some numbers to that, for instance, with bottomland hardwood wetlands, with every 10% increase in them within 250 meters, there was a 16% increase in the effective number of dominant songbird species. The presence of agriculture negatively linked to diversity, especially within 500 and 1,000 meters. Just again, to give numbers to this, the songbird species, the dominant songbird species decreased 17 and 16% with every 10% increase in agriculture within 500 and 1,000 meters respectively. So really, in the end, it's really important to consider the landscape beyond the easement boundaries to maximize avian diversity. And with that, I thank you for listening and want to thank the NRCS and the Nature Conservancy for their support, and also the Watershed Studies Institute. And many, many people have been involved that we're very grateful to.